Hello fellow space engineers, this is Marcelo from ACFM and Gaming, and today I'm back with a short video that aims to answer a question that I have been getting recently as to why do I classify, or like what are the metrics that I use to classify my fleet. Now, we have talked about fleet classification and basically capabilities, capacities, tasks, why you build a ship for a specific class. So this is not going to be it. I'm just going to try to be as quick as I can with this simple explanation. Now I have answered in several instances that I use as a reference the fleet or the ships that appear in King's own tutorial campaign. Those are made by Aragat and you see them there. So this is a graphical representation from the bottom towards the top, from lighter to heavier of that system. On the bottom we have Keynes or Aragats, because it's designed by Aragat, who's a great creator that I really respect a lot. The Frigate Mark 1, and that's the, let's say, hero ship of the campaign, the one that the player gets to fly and attack and destroy the bigger cruiser up there. So that's the Frigate Mark 1. Then followed by the Frigate Mark 2, which is the heavier ship that the rebels, or in this case the miners that have splintered off from the ROS Corporation, used to fight the bigger one, which is the Agelos cruiser. I don't know if it's the Agelos class or just that's a different class, and that's the Agelos is one in the class. But anyway, so that's called the Agelos. Now you see that they share some similarities for many reasons. First off, they were made by the same creator, Aragat, like I mentioned before, and also they are supposed to be. This is supposed to be like the freighter or the freight, let's say, department of ROS Corporation. These are transform freighters. Now I'm not gonna dwell too much into that because I'm gonna make a separate video about whole fleet analysis between the lore and capabilities of each ship. So that just to say that some people have told me that I shouldn't compare my ships to the ones in the campaign, that they are subpar, but I think that's intentional because Aragat is a really good creator, and these are meant to be like that. These are meant to be converted freighters. So also that answers the other question. That I guess people who were telling me not to compare my ships to Kings, uh, they're coming from seeing or using or splitting in half the blue ship, something that everyone does. So they seem fragile, flimsy, but that's because those ships are haven't been aging that well. They were created for the first build of the game. So I hope that dispels any doubts and questions about that matter. I do like the, let's say, the sizes, the mass that King uses, or Aragat in this case uses, to classify his ships. So Corvettes in the bottom, King's lighter frigate, older frigate, as it mentioned, it's an old design. So I equate that to my Corvette, and they range from 500 to 750 tons. Now, interestingly enough, this frigate Mark 1 or this Corvette is 666 tons. I wanna show you that. I find that funny. There you have it. Interesting. So, moving on. Like I said before, Corvettes 500, 750. Then we go to frigates that I put them in the range of 1000 and 1500. This is the Frigate Mark II. And again, I have to mention here, my friend Board Arsonist, he made an upgraded version of this. It's really, really cool. It's more designed towards, combat, broadside combat. And he managed to make the ship atmospheric capable. And I'm mentioning that because this is the range in which, in my opinion, a ship that wants to be transatmospheric begins to suffer when it's in a space. The previous iteration of my frigate line, the Nymph, has that capacity. Integrated turbofans or turbines to atmospheric thrusters. I know, like this one, like the Corvette, but it has perhaps too many, And while it does perform in both environments, it suffers a lot in space. And I want this, I mean, this is basically a spaceship, so I want it to be excelling in space. So you can make a ship that is 1,500 tons in mass, performing both relatively, you know, okay-ish in both environments, but it's going to suffer from their own. I know that some people have made, cruiser battleship side, even Titan classes for space engineers that can land on a planet. Landing on a planet is not the same as performing agile or well in space, so this is where I draw the line, the 1.5 million tons. So moving on, my destroyers are on the 3 million ton range. Could be lower, could be higher, and this is also the mass that is, I guess, comparatively really close to Whiplash's Komodo class destroyer. Now, understanding that for other classification systems, this will be a light cruiser, and the destroyer will be the Corvette, but it really doesn't matter how you want to call it. It's in the progression line. This is the place in which I put the destroyers, an intermediate between the 1.5 and the 6 million ton cruisers. Now, this is the Agelos cruiser. I didn't want to put in my own line of cruisers because I wanted to give you the reference. But the Agelos is nearing 6 million. It's 5,000 something, but sorry, not 6 million, 6,000. It's 5,000 something tons, but keep into consideration that this ship is basically a prop. It's kind of like a movie prop. So it has explosives where you see those X's, and it has interior thrusters and doesn't have jump drives or whatever. It's meant to be, destroyed by the players. So if you were to gut it and design an actual functioning ship out of it, you would hit that, 6,000 ton range. And some people have done that. I can also put, links in the description for you to see all of those ships that have been extracted from the campaign. Now, Tonnage by itself doesn't make a class. The capacities of a ship make it, but one thing is true. Tonnage, leads to some shapes that you can achieve, some capabilities that you can achieve. For example, you know how many jump drives are you going to put in? The more interior volume that you gain, the more mass that you're going to add. So they're going to be progressing. The perhaps there is another threshold that happens at the 1.5 range, and that is the use of PMWs and how relevant a bunch of light turrets are going to be. Currently, and I cannot say this enough, we only have defensive weapons, so the Agelos up there is really trying, but it's not a cruiser because of the amount of Gatlings that it has. It's more a cruiser because it has hangar and facilities and refining capacity, stuff like that. So that being said, this is the line also, the 1.5, in which I would call it the ridiculous line, in which no matter how many of those small turrets you add, the ship is not going to be much destroyer-y, be much cruiser-y, unless you add some PMWs and things like that. So those were my 2 cents about ship classification, and I hope that I can bring you more of these videos in the future, since things evolve and the game changes and they add more blocks, hopefully, fingers crossed, more heavy weapons or actual heavy weapons. Anyway, take care and keep playing.